Hello and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jennifer Schmitt and today is the launch webinar for Therefore 2025. I am extremely happy to be here with you and we're going to be talking about the new features coming up in the newest version of Therefore. So I did just start the recording and so you will be able to watch the recording of this webinar later today on our YouTube channel, Therefore TV. So if you missed this or you want to share it with some friends or some colleagues, have no fear because you'll be able to share it with them through YouTube. My name is Jennifer Schmitt and I am a member of Therefore's digital engagement team. We are responsible for doing all kinds of activities related to Therefore, from writing the documentation to maintaining the website. And my personal project, along with Roman, is that we create the e-learning content. So if you are a Canon or Canon partner, you get free access to our extranet where you have access also to our e-learning courses, which are completely free of charge. And so of course, all of the new features which we are discussing today are available for you to review in an e-learning course called Therefore 2025, called Refresher Training version 33. And it covers the installation, configuration, and use of all of the new features coming in this new version. So please, after you watch this webinar, take some time to go through the e-learning. The e-learning is really fast and easy. It should take you no more than an hour to go through, watch the videos, and just get a summary of all these new features. So once again, completely free of charge. Take the time, do the refresher training, because then you'll really know how to install, use, and configure all of these new features. So what are these new features that we're going to be talking about? First, I'm going to mention some announcements related to the update, the new edition, and then our newest, biggest features, which are document classification, two-factor authentication, HTML email designer, and many other features. So for those of you who are new to Therefore, who maybe haven't had a new release, let me quickly explain how our release cycle works. Here at Therefore, we have 2 releases every year. The big main release, which is in the spring, and a secondary release, which is in the fall. And here I should say again, we're basing spring and fall based off of our spring and fall where we are in the Northern Hemisphere. We're based out of Austria. And the spring release is the main release for both Therefore Online and Therefore On Premises. And then we have a secondary release in the fall, which is for Therefore Online only. Then every spring, any changes that were implemented in the fall are then also brought into the spring release as well. So this is now our spring release that we're talking about today, which means that all of these features are for both Therefore Online and Therefore On Premises. And here is a picture of our release cycle where you can see that for many years now, we've been following this release schedule where we have the primary and secondary release. The numbers which you see here are for Therefore Online systems, which are the systems which are maintained by Therefore, with the servers being on Microsoft Azure. And the numbers here are the years in which that occurred. So our release right now is version 33, which is Therefore 2025 right now. And the next release is going to be in the fall of this year, 2025, and that will be an update for Therefore Online systems only. So Therefore Online, TFO, these systems are hosted on Microsoft Azure. And we have different data centers around the world so that our customers around the world can have their data stored relatively locally. And these systems will be updated by our team, including installing the new configurations, installing the new systems on the server, and any updates or maintenance that's necessary. So the first system that will be updated will be Canada on May 14th, followed by the USA May 20th, Australia May 27th, Europe June 3rd, India June 5th, Asia June 9th, and Japan June 11th. But speaking of Therefore Online data centers, we're really proud to announce that a new online data center will be opened. And this is going to be in the UK, with primary storage being in London and backup in Cardiff. With this new change, we hope that we can better serve our customers in the UK by offering them a data center that's actually local to them. So our European data center will continue to support our customers within the EU, but now we have another one specifically for our UK customers, which we're really excited about. Moreover, we now are introducing an on-premise subscription edition. This allows customers who wish to have a server in-house, like in a traditional on-premise system, to pay for it on a monthly basis, just like they're for online. The software assurance is included in the monthly price, and it provides similar controls and customization as a perpetual license, but with subscription-based pricing. This makes it more attractive for customers who want to have that month-by-month smaller cost rather than a big lump payment. And it requires an internet connection to check the license, so it basically communicates with our license server to ensure that the subscription is active, and it's currently available in EMEA and Asia. And so we hope by offering this, we're able to cater to the needs and demands of customers who want to have more flexible payment options, but still want that customization of that in-house server system. If you guys have any questions about any of this, please let me know by just typing in the Q&A. And since I don't see any questions about the on-premise subscription edition, I will continue to our next big feature. So this is the biggest feature that we're releasing this year. It's called AI document classification. So this feature allows documents to be automatically classified using Azure Document Intelligence. Basically, we've built a connector which uploads documents from Therefore to Azure Document Intelligence, and Azure Document Intelligence uses artificial intelligence to then classify the document type. The way it works is documents are saved to a classification category, so a general input category. Then a workflow starts which moves the documents then to Azure, where they are then analyzed using AI, and then they're classified as a certain document type. Then the workflow then moves the documents to the final destination category. And so the typical expected use case is that customers want their incoming mail or incoming documents to be automatically classified into different document types. So for example, you'd have an incoming mailbox where you get all kinds of different requests, and you want those different types of documents to be sorted so that they can be better processed. The licensing is very easy. It's available for all Therefore editions that have workflow. This includes Therefore Online, Therefore On-Premises, and Subscription Edition. It does require workflow, which means it can only work with Therefore Essentials, Business, or Enterprise Edition. And it does require a connector license for Azure Document Intelligence. And then on top of that, there is a small per page charge. You have to buy packs of pages in advance, just like Therefore Smart Capture, the indexing AI-based product that we have. To give you a better idea of how it works, I do have this brief GIF where you can see a workflow is being started. Then we retrieve the document, and then you can see here in the workflow history, the document has been sent to manual verification. And then the user can say here in the index data what kind of document it is. They have to verify it's an invoice. The confidence level is also recognized, and then you can approve the classification. And this is the start of it, how you just set it up. You set the confidence level, the number of documents that you want to use to train the system. An XML file is then automatically created, which makes it really easy for the administrators. And then the documents are simply loaded into that starting system. And here is the keyword dictionary with the types of documents that you can classify with. And then there's the workflow. So the nice thing about setting up the system for administrators is that it's actually very easy to configure. The system actually creates an XML file for you containing the keyword dictionaries, the workflow, and the category itself. So it's supremely easy to get started. And the nice thing is that training is also very fast for Azure Document Intelligence. The minimum number of documents needed to train the classifier is 5. We recommend using more, around 10, especially if the document types that you want to classify are very similar. So if you have documents that appear visually very similar, you might require more documents to train the classifier, but all in all, it is very fast and easy to use. So from a user point, it's extremely easy. You're just using a workflow, and if the workflow is sure that the document classification is correct, manual verification can be skipped. If the confidence level hasn't been reached, users will be asked to manually verify if that classification is correct. So this is a really handy feature, especially in situations where customers receive a lot of different types of documents into a common inbox or a common folder, and they want these to be sorted. It is really worth mentioning, at this stage, we can only classify the document types. We're not extracting data yet. However, that is planned for the future. Let me just check if there's any questions in the Q&A. We did get a question from Richard saying that they have a customer who is still running 2018. Can we upgrade them directly to 2025, or would it better to do a progressive upgrade? Please contact our support team. Oftentimes when there is a big distance between the older version and the newer version, they do recommend doing a progressive upgrade. Reach out to support@therefore.net and they'll walk you through exactly what needs to be done. But that's a great question. Thank you, Richard. All right, moving on from the AI document classification to the next feature, which is two-factor authentication. So we've now introduced two-factor authentication for therefore internal users and portal users. So internal users are users who only have an account within Therefore. These are the types of users that we oftentimes use for our demo situations. So they're users who have their accounts not tied to any other system. So not Microsoft Entra, not Okta. It's just really users who have their accounts within Therefore only. And portal users are users who have access to the Therefore portal. Now, on user accounts that you've configured, you can ask users to verify that they're really logging into Therefore using two-factor authentication, in which this case they'll get an email and they just have to click the link. The way that it's configured is very easy. You simply have to open up the Solution Designer, check a box either on the user properties or on the system as a whole to say that you want to enable two-factor authentication. And I do have a GIF that shows how this is working. So he's waiting to verify the identity. You get a link, you click confirm login, and then you can close this tab, and then Therefore web viewer or Therefore navigator will open whatever you've configured. So here it's going again. You just get the link here and then immediately confirm that you want to log in. And that's how the two-factor authentication works. At this stage, it's just a simple two-factor authentication, but in the next release coming in the fall, we're going to be improving the user experience even more, which is going to be great because we will then have an even nicer user experience. But it does work for those customers who are wishing to enhance their security. Maybe they have a security audit coming up. This is a great way to increase the security level within Therefore. Moving on, we also have an HTML email editor. So this was a feature which was specifically requested or required for the two-factor authentication. And with the HTML email editor, it just makes it a lot easier to create nicely formatted, nicely looking emails. HTML was supported in previous versions, but we did not have this, what you see is what you get email editor previously. And the nice thing is that you can also do a lot now with embedding links to certain actions. So that also makes it much easier. And this is going to be visible anytime that you have an email that's going to be composed, for example, in the workflow using the send email task. And I do have a GIF here again, where you can just see what it looks like. We're writing an email. This is the workflow. You save it, activate, and then the user gets the email just like it was composed. And here's the GIF starting over again, adding an image, adding some formatting. So making it a lot easier to create very nice looking emails. All right, Let's move on to the next feature, which is support of pre-recognized data with Smart Capture. Wow, that name is sure a mouthful, and it is hard to understand. But let me break down exactly what we're talking about. So, as you can see here, we have a QR code. And for those of you from Switzerland, anybody from Switzerland here on the call today? Yes, and Thomas Fay, I see you also wrote a question too. So for those of you in Switzerland, and Stephanie also from Switzerland, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But I've seen this also in Austria as well, that it's not uncommon nowadays to get an invoice that has a QR code on it with the banking details. The invoices in Austria are done just to make it easier to pay. They have usually the payment details, the sum, maybe the reference number, the IBAN number, and this makes it much easier because when you're paying with a banking app, you don't have to manually type everything in. In Switzerland, they've taken this a step further, as my understanding is, and they actually now require all invoices to have a QR code, a special payment slip attached to it that includes this payment information. And the request came in that they want to be able to use a machine to extract the data contained within the QR code, as well as Smart Capture, to recognize the line items, which of course are not contained on the QR code. And what they want is they wanted to be able to overwrite the data extracted from the QR code with anything that Smart Capture would recognize, because usually machine-read data will be more accurate than any data that would be extracted with the AI. And so now we have made it possible to use pre-recognized data, which is the data from the QR code, together with Smart Capture, which uses AI to extract line items. This is really useful, but it's particularly useful, of course, for our friends in Switzerland who now are encountering this on every single invoice. So this is extremely useful to Switzerland in particular, but of course it can also be adapted to other formats and other standards around the world. So what you see here is we are using Content Connector or Capture Client to extract the QR code because we have a built-in barcode reader within those programs. Then we're using Smart Capture, which uses AI, and these two combine to extract the maximum amount of information from those invoices. So the licensing requires either a Content Connector or the Capture Client plus Smart Capture Extractor. And it basically just combines the two. The way the use case would be is, say like we're using the Content Connector, invoices arrive to a mailbox, it's monitored by the mailbox, then the Content Connector extracts the information that's in the QR code because the Content Connector can already do that. It then saves the extracted information to a category. Then in that category, we trigger the Smart Capture extraction process where the line items are extracted from that same invoice. And if there's any discrepancies, the QR code data will take precedence. So I think it's a really interesting and really useful step forward because we know that we want to maximize our efficient and very quick and easy processing of invoices. And this is a really great way to do so. I did also prepare a brief video here. Again, it's just a GIF. So here we see the Swiss QR code. It's being saved to the Content Connector where it's being processed. And this is the data that was then extracted. You can see here, all this was extracted from the QR code. Then we're going to start the workflow, the Smart Capture process. And you can see it's now at the user review stage. So it's already been going through the Smart Capture recognition process. And now the user has to review to see if the information is correct. So we'll open up the task. And you can see here all of the data that you can see here was extracted from these different parts on the invoice. If there's a green check, it means it was recognized in the previous stage with the content connector. And here's again, start. Content connector processes it, this invoice here. And there's the index data. This information was in the QR code. Then we start the workflow where Smart Capture extracts the line items. So it's a simple process. The configuration is quite extensive, but for those of you in Switzerland, Thomas Fey has prepared an XML file, which does make it significantly easier. I'm going to quickly just see if there's any questions, because I did see that we got some questions coming in. So let me just see what the Q&A says. So Thomas has a question about the AI classification. Are there any restrictions on the types of documents? There are no restrictions, but it is recommended, first of all, to use text-based documents when possible and not image PDFs. Although images can be used by the AI to help classify, if you have documents that are very, very similar, for example, emails where you want to classify email complaint letters versus like appointment requests, that could be a situation where it's very difficult to classify, so you might need more training documents. However, there are no restrictions per se on any document types that can be classified. It just could be that the more similar the documents are in terms of the wording or the layout, the more training will be required. And Katarina says, thank you for your presentation. Excellent. I'm happy that you like it, and I hope this feature will help you, because I know that this is a huge issue with the QR codes, but it's really cool, and I hope other countries follow suit, because I think this will make invoicing and just getting the information in a lot easier. So what you guys have in Switzerland, it's really cool. Next question is, do we support automatic splitting now? No, unfortunately, we do not. So this is something that's really, really important to remember. If you're using AI classification, or if you're using this, you need to have your documents already split. So if you have a document with 10 pages and every page is a separate invoice, you need to split it previously. So when you're scanning in, if you're batch scanning paper in, put a separator page in between so that each page will be saved as its own separate document. Or if you're doing mailbox monitoring, whatever it is, monitoring a folder, every document needs to be split. Hope that it's clear to all of you. And then let's move on. And if anything, if you guys have questions again, as I'm going through, just type them in, and I will stop and answer questions to the best of my ability. Our next question, our next request that we have is logging the reason for retrieving a document. So this is a special request that actually came to us from Finland, but it's also very useful in many other regions around the world, especially in medical settings or government settings, where you want to have very good control and very clear audit trails. Why are people looking at documents? Why are they retrieving them? And in this case, we can make it mandatory to log the reason for retrieval. This would be done on a case-by-case basis or category-by-category basis. Users would then have to provide a reason for requesting the document before they can open up and view it. They would get then this little box here, and they type in, I'm wanting to look at the patient's records because there was questions about their care. And then they type that in, and then they can open up the document. So it's just an additional step to add to the security and traceability. Now we also have other enhancements as well, in particular with the web client. So many of you on the call are already familiar that several years ago, we began a tremendous project of rebuilding our web client completely from scratch. And as with every release, we continue to work on the web client. We want to reach feature parity between the installed and web client. And we want to make sure that the web client is extremely intuitive and easy to use. So we have updated the UI, added advanced search options. workflow processing improvements, and storage usage for Therefore Online. So if you open up the avatar now, users can very easily see how much storage they're consuming on Therefore Online, which is also very useful. There's also enhancements to the e-forms, so it's easier to open up a new e-form in edit mode versus test mode, things like that. If you're interested in learning more, check out the e-learning, because we did go into that in more detail. Other small enhancements that we added is we have multiple keywords in case headers now. So we can add a keyword that has multiple selections in the case header as well. And we also have other enhancements such as out-of-office task delegation for Therefore tasks. You can also include comments in the workflow history if you're saving the workflow history, so you can add that optionally. And we can also change who is notified about license notification. We have support for SFTP as well as FTPS. And we can also set session token lifetimes, which means how long is a session active for. But that concludes my presentation, short and sweet. If you do want to learn more, get in contact with us. I'm always looking forward to hearing from you. I'm going to check the Q&A to see if we have any more questions. And we got a really good comment. It is my understanding that all countries are moving to electronic EDI, supposedly by 3030 per invoices as minimum. That's great. So it looks like electronic invoice processing is going to become the norm, hopefully around the world. I fully support it, and I think it's going to make at least accounting much easier, especially with the rise of AI. So that's really great to know. Yeah, and that concludes my presentation for the new features in Therefore 2025. All of you on the call, please take the time to walk through the refresher training for Therefore 2025. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know. And I'll see you next month with another exciting topic. All right, thank you too, and see you in the next.